my pleasure to introduce the U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson. We all know in Wisconsin, but some of the ladies probably don't know that you were elected in 2010 and have been serving. You just were reelected in 2022 for a third term and have been very great senator all around. Everybody knows you. So, and you've championed a lot of issues in Washington, D.C., and the Republican women have been with you from the day one. I was there one of the first days that you announced to run, and so I'm so thrilled to have the honor of introducing you to the rest of our friends tonight on our virtual clubs from different states. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Charlotte and Catherine and everybody on this call. I think Charlotte is fully aware of the fact of how appreciative I am of the women in the Republican federated group that has worked so tirelessly for conservative causes. I mean, I certainly understand that. As somebody who ran a business, I know it was the women in the business that shouldered the burden, and that's certainly true in terms of politics as well. So without your involvement, without your hard work, we wouldn't be much of a party. So I fully understand that and incredibly grateful and appreciative. So thank you for all of your efforts and for remaining involved. Generally, Shar should have given you a little bit of a warning, a little bit of disclaimer. I'm not necessarily the most uplifting character in the world because we face perilous times right now. I testified before the House Committee on the weaponization of government against U.S. citizens. And I think one of the points I was trying to make is, as conservatives, I really don't think we have fully grasped the extent that the left, and I would say the radical left, have fully infiltrated not only every major institution of America, but also globally. And we see this in terms of the partisanship within federal agencies. We certainly see within our university system, within our education system, within journalism. And so when the left controls all those institutions, they control the narrative. Throughout the campaign, and in my campaign, literally, I was up against individuals that had no problem lying. To them, the end justifies the means. And so, unfortunately, when your Democrat opponents, when the Democrat groups come and just lie bold-faced to the public, the media doesn't call them on it. So I would say throughout the campaign, it's not a level playing field. It's not a fair fight. But I think all of you understand how we can't stop fighting. This nation is far too rare, far too precious. There's never been another nation on earth like the United States of America. Never. The level of prosperity, the level of affluence, the level of freedom that we have enjoyed. But that all is at risk right now. With Democrats in power, fortunately now we've captured, captured the House and put a check on their total power within government. But with them still controlling the White House and the regulatory agencies, they are spending our nation into bankruptcy. They are mortgaging our kids' future. And together with their allies in the media, the big tech social media giants, they are robbing us of our freedom because they control the narrative. So we've got to work even harder. I know in Wisconsin, we have an incredibly important Wisconsin Supreme Court race. We have an initial primary. It's unfortunately gotten nasty. I really wish Republican candidates would understand that most Republican voters really do value Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. Primaries are fine. It hones candidates, but Republican candidates ought to be telling Republican voters how they're going to defeat their liberal, radical left Democrat opponents and not harm their Republican opponent who just might be the nominee. And we all need to, after these primaries, rally around the nominee that the voters select, that they choose, and we need to unify. We can't sit on the sidelines if our preferred Republican candidate doesn't win. So I'm sure that type of situation is repeated in your states as well. And I don't personally endorse, just don't do it. I let the voters decide. And then once the voters have decided, I put my 150% effort behind our nominee to make sure that we defeat the leftists that we're running against. And so if we all take that attitude, if we all understand how rare and precious our nation is and how much peril it is in. I often quote Mark Levin in his book, American Marxism. He talks about how Americans must awaken to the urgency of the moment. I frequently point out that Venezuelans voted themselves into poverty. They voted themselves into tyranny over the course of just a few decades. We are on that type of path. It's going to be up to us, conservatives, people that love this country, that have to get us off this path. But again, it's a difficult task ahead of us. But again, I want to thank all you women who are involved in the effort. I know who does the lion's share of the work. We're going to depend and count on you, and thank you for your efforts. And again, Shar, I don't know that people want to ask questions, but I'm available if that's the format.
We asked for a few questions, and I know you've been very involved in the COVID injuries that have been taking place with the COVID mandate and people that had to be forced into taking it. Do we have some place where we can sign up and tell about the injuries, or what is your latest on the fight with the COVID vaccine injuries?
Certainly contact my office, Ron Johnson at Senator Ron Johnson at U.S. Senate or Senate.gov. But I would certainly encourage people, if you feel you're vaccine injured, to get onto the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, the VAERS system of the CDC, the FDA, and report your vaccine injury. Right now, the VAERS system is reporting over 1.5 million adverse events, over 34,000 deaths worldwide. 25.3% of those deaths occurred on days 0, 1, or 2 following vaccination. Now, I realize VAERS doesn't prove causation, but that's a pretty concerning, I would say alarming, correlation between time of vaccination and death. And the other problem with VAERS is it dramatically understates the number of adverse events. So unfortunately, collectively, our federal health agencies, the Biden administration, Big Pharma, our mainstream media who push the vaccines on everybody, the big tech social media giants, they're all in a state of denial. They can't afford to be proven wrong, and unfortunately have the power to make it very difficult to prove them wrong. So if you believe you've been vaccine injured, if you know somebody who has, and you start taking a look at polling, most Americans, they know somebody who's either been vaccine injured or who they suspect might have died of the vaccine. To a far greater extent, to a far larger percentage, know somebody like that than they know that potentially died of COVID. And I've never understated the nastiness of that disease, but that disease was primarily a problem for the elderly, for people with certain comorbidities. Most of us, I had COVID completely asymptomatic, as was about 40 to 50%. So, unfortunately, our response to COVID was a miserable failure. The people who push that response on us, again, they will never admit they're wrong, and they've got the backing of the media. But I think the truth will come out eventually. One of the reasons I've been an advocate for vaccine injured is right now they're isolated. But without the federal health agencies admitting and acknowledging that vaccine injuries are even a possibility, these individuals can't get treated. So they're completely isolated. Unfortunately, far too many are actually committing suicide. They're overwhelmed by their pain, by their disabilities, and by the fact that they can't even get people to listen to them. Doctors far too often just think it's all in their head and completely ignore them. That's just simply wrong. So it was one of the primary reasons I decided to run for a third term. As frustrating as this place is, as much as I would have liked to just walk away and fade into a nice retirement, I could not turn my back on the vaccine injured. I won't turn my back on them. It's my top priority as U.S. Senator here for the next 6 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I remember a call last year about this time, and we were talking about you running for your third term, and we all agreed that we needed you. So thank you so much for running for that third term. Other investigations on some of the things that are going on. Do you have any updates on anything that you've heard in Washington as of the last few days with the flyover of the Chinese and all the other issues that we've been facing? You could.
Right. I'm completely supportive of what people like Chairman Jordan, Chairman Comer, the House members who are hitting the ground running, taking their chairmanship very seriously, trying to uncover and expose the truth, because the American people deserve the truth. So as much as the Democrats are howling and screaming and saying now we're weaponizing government, nothing could be further from the truth. We're trying to expose and expose the truth and make sure the American public understands exactly what's happening inside government. And so I completely support their efforts. Let's face it, the reason the Chinese government feel emboldened to put up surveillance balloons over U.S. territory is because just about every action taken by President Biden and this government and Democrats in Congress have weakened this country. If you want to start out talking about the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan, that certainly displayed weakness. But 40-year high inflation, record gasoline prices, they're still maintained very high. Rising crime, an almost completely open border. All of these things weaken our country, and our adversaries notice it. And they take these moments of weakness in America as an opportunity to go on the offensive, become aggressive. I don't think Vladimir Putin ever would have invaded Ukraine under President Trump, but he saw a real opportunity under a weak and unfit for office President Biden. So elections have enormous consequences. That's why you're all involved, and you fully understand that.
Yes, thank you. So one of the other things is, have you formed any opinion about Joe Biden and his presidency? Is he actually the president, or is he being controlled by the Obama people? A lot of people out here on the ground really feel that he's incompetent and he's not really pulling any strings. He's not really the leader.
I personally can't imagine a more challenging job than President of the United States. It is challenging both mentally as well as physically. And somebody like President Biden, who is obviously showing the signs of age, somebody who even President Obama said never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to, I'll say, screw things up. He's just not up to the task. Any president relies on a large staff, and certainly under President Biden, he has a large staff of committed leftists who are more than happy to impose their leftist ideology on us, and we are reaping the results of what they've sown. So exactly who's in charge? It's just that group of committed leftists who are, as I say, who have infiltrated every major institution of this country and, quite honestly, globally.
Yes, we definitely see that. So, Catherine, do you have any questions that I see people have been asking? Do you have some that you would like to ask Senator Johnson?
Well, there's one particular one that came through on the chat. And so, Senator Johnson, if we could ask you, this particular individual says she's from Minnesota, and they're struggling with the woke leftists, and the majority is passing the most extreme bill in the nation to kill babies at Planned Parenthood, virtually unrestricted. How can we fight back against the tyranny of the left?
We have to believe that truth has its own power. As I said, it's not a level playing field. It's not a fair fight. I've got family members in Minnesota, and I'm well aware of the outrageous laws that they are passing in terms of abortion rights and that type of thing. So all we can do is fight back with the truth. We've got to appeal to the hearts and minds of individuals and point out, because the media won't. Look at what they're trying to normalize. Listen, we all have compassion for our fellow human beings and people that struggle through life and don't really have a good gender identity. I mean, we all feel for people like that. But our educational institutions should not be pushing transgenderism on young people. I think we were all shocked that doctors and nurses and some parents are allowing their minor children to be, and I'll say the word, mutilated in these transgender operations. I mean, that's just shocking. I mean, that's irreversible. That's a tough enough decision for an adult to make, but only adults should make that decision for themselves. Minors should not be subjected to that type of thing. But that is what the radical left is imposing on us. It's not normal. It's not normal at all. But the media, big tech media, social giants, I mean, the social media giants, they are all normalizing, this kind of ideology, whether it comes to, abortion up to not only the moment of birth, but just allowing babies to expire once they actually are born. I mean, what could be more radical than that? And yet, the news media looks at Republicans who want to protect life and say that that's a radical position. So, again, all we can do is just fight back with every ounce of our effort.
That's for sure. And I don't think we have any other questions. And I want to thank you for your leadership and the Republican women across the nation, and especially in our state of Wisconsin, have been, working and carrying on the fight. And we have to, I don't know how we're going to get past the election fraud that we've been seeing. And I'm sure glad that Elon Musk has kind of exposed some of that. And what is your thought on some of that being exposed at this point?
First of all, the good news in terms of election in Wisconsin, because we had Republicans step up the plate and act as election workers, and then poll watchers and observers, we ran a pretty clean election in November of 2022. Wasn't the exact result we wanted, but I think most people take a look at, we did everything we could to reduce the level of fraud that occurred in that election. Let's face it, there's fraud in everyone, but I think we were all satisfied that was a fair election. But it was fair because we had observers making sure that it was fair. So that's a model that needs to be repeated in all 50 states. And in terms of what Elon Musk has done, I give him a lot of credit. I appreciate what he has exposed, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. It's unfortunately doesn't surprise me what we found out. I was a target of the FBI's campaign to sabotage, for example, Senator Grassley's and my investigation of Hunter Biden. I know full well what the radical left in these institutions are doing to this country. So it's good that Elon Musk is unmasking a portion of that, but there's a much larger story. There's a much larger struggle going on here, and that's what we need to keep working so hard to prevail over.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Johnson. Catherine, do you have any other questions?
Senator, I think we are all so grateful to you for joining us tonight. We know your time is precious, but thank you so much for taking time out to spend this evening with us.
Well, thank you all, and God bless. Stay well.
Thank you. Thank you.